Hello! For today's reading and writing lesson, we are going to read another Eric Carle book. So we read one last week, we're reading one this week. Last week was The Grouchy Ladybug. This week we are going to read The Tiny Seed. And you may have read this one. This is one that's very popular. It's one of his more popular stories. And it actually, because you guys know about how plants and seeds work because we've been studying it all week, this book will be really familiar to you. And then what we are going to do, we're going to work on the skill of summarizing, which means that you're going to tell the most important parts of a story. Summarizing means that you're not going to retell the whole entire story. You're going to tell the most important parts. So, Mrs. Schmidt has a color printer. If you don't have a color printer at home, yours might look a little bit different. But I have the page with the flower. It says skill. We're going to work on summarizing. And in this story, the flower and the seed go through 4 different seasons. And we're only going to say the most important thing that happens in each season, because if we say the entire story, we might as well just reread the book, right? And we don't always want to do that, because if someone tells you, well, what is that book about? We're not going to reread them the whole story. They might not have time to hear that. You give them the summary. You tell them the most important parts. So that's what we're going to work on. So first I'm going to read you the story, and then we're going to work on that together. The Tiny Seed. It is autumn. A strong wind is blowing. It blows flower seeds high in the air and carries them far across the land. One of the seeds is tiny, smaller than any of the others. Will it be able to keep up with the others? And where are they all going? Tiny one. One of the seeds flies higher than the others. Up, up, up it goes. It flies too high and the sun's hot rays burn it up, but the tiny seed sails on with the others. Another seed lands on a tall and icy mountain. The ice never melts and the seed cannot grow. The rest of the seeds fly on, but the tiny seed does not go as fast as the others. Here he is, he's behind. Now they fly over the ocean. One seed falls into the water and drowns. The others sail on with the wind, but the tiny seed does not go as high as the others. Right there. One seed drifts down onto the desert. It is hot and dry, and the seed cannot grow. Now the tiny seed is flying very low, but the wind pushes it on with the others. Finally, the wind stops, and the seeds fall gently down on the ground. A bird comes by and eats one seed. The tiny seed is not eaten. It is so small that the bird does not see it. Now it is winter. After their long trip, the seeds settle down. They look just as if they are going to sleep in the earth. Snow falls and covers them like a soft white blanket. A hungry mouse that also lives in the ground eats a seed for his lunch, but the tiny seed lies very still, and the mouse does not see it. Now it is spring. After a few months, the snow has melted. It is really spring. Birds fly by, the sun shines, rain falls, the seeds grow so round and full they start to burst open a little. Now they are not seeds anymore. They are plants. First they send roots down into the earth. Then their little stems and leaves begin to grow up toward the sun and air. There is another plant that grows much faster than the new little plants. It's a big, fat weed, and it takes all the sunlight and rain away from one of the small new plants, and that little plant dies. The tiny seed hasn't begun to grow yet. It will be too late. Hurry, but finally it too starts to grow into a plant. So I bet that's the tiny seed right there. The warm weather also brings children out to play. They too have been waiting for the sun in springtime. One child doesn't see the plants and he runs along and he breaks one. Now it cannot grow anymore. Hopefully you are more careful when you play outside. The tiny plant that grew from the tiny seed is growing fast, but its neighbor grows even faster. Before the tiny plant has 3 leaves, the other plant has 7. And look, a bud, and now even a flower. But what is happening? First there are footsteps, then a shadow looms over them, then a hand reaches down and breaks off the flower. A boy has picked the flower to give to a friend. Now it is summer. Now the tiny plant from the tiny seed is all alone. It grows on and on. It doesn't stop. The sun shines on and the rain waters it. It has many leaves. It grows taller and taller. It is taller than the people. It is taller than the trees. It is taller than the houses. and now a flower grows on it. People come from far and near to look at this flower. It is the tallest flower they have ever seen. It is a giant flower. And that was from a tiny seed. All summer long, the birds and bees and butterflies come visiting. They have never seen such a big and beautiful flower. Now it is autumn again. The days grow shorter, the nights grow cooler, and the wind carries yellow and red leaves past the flower. Some petals drop from the giant flower, and they sail along with the bright leaves over the land and down to the ground. The wind blows harder, and the flower has almost lost all of its petals. It sways and bends from the wind, but the wind grows stronger and shakes the flower. And once more the wind shakes the flower, and this time the flower's seed pod opens. And out come many tiny seeds that quickly sail far away on the wind. Sound familiar? The end. So that was a long story. And if someone were to tell you, hey, what is the tiny seed all about? Are you going to retell them the whole story, or are you going to just tell them the most important parts? You're probably only going to tell them the most important parts. So what we're going to do is, I know that in this story, autumn comes 2 times. It's at the beginning and the end. We are only going to focus on the autumn that's at the beginning. So when it happens again, when all the seeds fly off at the end, we're not going to write about that part. But in the autumn at the beginning, what is kind of the most important thing that is happening? If I'm looking and I keep saying the seeds are doing what? The seeds are flying along the wind. So, am I going to write the seed flies first across the ocean, so then it cries on the mountain? So no, you're not going to write every single one. You're going to write the most important thing that's happening in autumn, which is the seed. And I'm writing it here. The seed flies along the wind. And finally lands. If you wanted to, you could rewind and pause so that you can copy that down. And we're only going to do winter, and then so we're going to do autumn, and then winter, summer, and then spring. We're going to do winter together because that's kind of an easy one. There's only 1 page of winter. Probably because not much happens in the winter. So if I had to summarize and kind of just say in one sentence what happens in the winter, what would we say? We're going to say that the seed stays underground. So I'm going to write the seed stays underground. Alrighty, so you've got spring and then summer. Now spring is another long one. It's kind of how autumn was long as well. So you might need to think about what happened in spring. A lot kind of happened in spring. So if I were you, you might have to either rewind the video or just start it over and listen to the story all over again. And you can pause when you get to spring because kind of a lot happens. And then summer is a little bit on the shorter side. It's kind of like when winter. So good luck. If you need help, ask Mom or Dad, or you can email Mrs. Schmidt or Mrs. Cattleman, and we will help you as well. Good luck, and we will see you later.